hall. You can walk all the way around. If you need restrooms, there's one over there.
Thanks for everybody coming. This is exciting. You know, we're going to go through gun safety. We got a great guy, Travis Pugh, active Air Force, and definitely has some experience with guns. So, and you know, and safety of them. So we're going to just talk about the board. Has the board got any comments, questions? We're recording, and we put these up on YouTube, but you're good. Any announcements for the previous meetings or anything? No, we're good. All right, well, we're going to rock and roll. Mr. Travis Pugh.
Yeah, thank you. All right, yeah, so we're going to talk about firearm safety. This is a fairly intro, the PowerPoint's pretty intro level. However, afterwards we can get into the discussion about, you know, different guns and uses and all that. If you have one, don't take it out in here. That would be bad. So. You have to put it up there because I've had people in class pull their pistol right out of their holster. I'm like, no, put that back. Let's not do that. You pull yours, I pull mine, it becomes a thing. Let's not do that. All right, so who am I? I'm an NRA rifle and pistol instructor. Been doing this for about 15 years now. I am an Illinois concealed carry instructor. I'm not a Texas concealed carry instructor because I haven't been down here long enough to have time to start that business. And it's not really needed anymore. There's, you know, with the open carry and constitutional carry. I used to instruct for Project Appleseed and Revere's Riders. I'm not doing that right now just based off of time. And my military background that's relevant to shooting anyway is I did 10 years of Air Force explosive ordnance disposal. So we were tasked anytime that we deployed was with the Army or the Marines, and we handled all that. So we did just about everything that like an infantry unit would do, and then got tasked to Special Forces as well, so we did some of their stuff. So plenty of time on the two-way range doing that type of stuff. All right, basic gun safety rules. Make sure you're pointing in a safe direction and not at anything that you're unwilling to destroy. Always keep your finger off the trigger until you're ready to shoot. Treat all guns as though they are loaded and keep them unloaded until ready to use. And know your target and what's beyond. That fourth one is the one that not everybody considers. And it's the one, everybody's heard the first three probably 1,000 times over if you've been around guns at all. The fourth one, you know, the movies is what ruins it for people because they think, oh, I can just hide behind this, you know, drywall and it's going to stop the bullets, or I can, you know, open up my car door and it's a magic shield. Yeah, bullets go right through cars. About the only thing they won't go through is the engine, and depending on the size of the engine, that's not much of a stop either. So yeah, make sure that you know where your rounds are going because you're responsible for every one of those rounds that you let go. All right, reasons for gun accidents. Negligence is the first one, and the first one under that is impairment. Don't ever use a gun when you're impaired by anything. The next one is not wearing PPE, personal protective equipment, hearing protection, you know, glasses, all that stuff. It is really, really easy for a gun to have a problem and something come back and take out your eye, and that's, you know, you don't want that. And then unsafe storage. And that's a big one, especially if you have kids around. You want to make sure that, you know, your gun's stored properly, but you have to make that balancing act between how you store it for safety and how you store it so that you have quick access and stuff. We'll talk about that. And then lack of knowledge. You know, there are some people that think that they are born a gun expert. I am not a gun expert. I teach it, I enjoy them, but I almost every class learn something new about some gun that I didn't know it did, or that's, you know, how, you know, I've had thousands or hundreds of guns come through class that have some weird thing about them. So if you don't know, do the research, figure it out. Make sure your gun's safe to operate. I have seen people bring guns to class that I would never ever shoot, even after it's been repaired. After seeing the problems that it has. One that always sticks out is the Ruger LCPs were real popular. The ones with the laser built into them. The set screws on the lasers would back out, and then the gun would jam. I had one jam half in and half out of battery. And we ended up having to take it to a gunsmith, and they had to beat it with a hammer to get it out while there's a live round in it, because there was no way to get it unjammed. So they built a little rig, and they did it all in a safe room, but it was, yeah. Know your ammo. 9mm is a big culprit of this. How many different types of 9mm rounds are there? Anybody want to?
One.
There is not just one. So 380 is actually a 9mm. It'll chamber in a 9mm. 9x17. Yep, 9x17. Makarov, 9x18. 9x19 is the Luger. And then there's 3 or 4 other calibers that will all fit in the exact same 9mm gun. And it's okay if you're shooting them out of the bigger caliber barrel, but if you can somehow jam a 9mm Luger into a 380, you're going to have a bad day. So. All right, safety quit. Talk about glasses. They don't have to be anything fancy, but they just need to be something that's rated. The pair of glasses I got in there are probably $4 glasses from Academy, but they're Z87 rated. They'll be able to take the abuse. Some of your designer eyewear, like Oakley's are all Z87 rated, so you can wear those and be okay. That's what we were issued. Hearing protection. So this afternoon, if you're going out, we'll be going to an indoor range. Highly recommend the earmuffs for it, because it's going to be insanely loud in there. Maybe even doubling up with earmuffs and foamies. The ones that are on the bottom are my favorite earmuffs, because they have electronics in them. They have a little microphone so you can hear what's going on around you, but as soon as the shots go off, it turns the sound off. Probably better than like 90% of the ones I was issued in the way they work. Storage. So considerations for storage, you have to balance the security versus the environment versus the ease of access. All these things have to balance. Safest place is always in a holster on your body, because you have complete control of the firearm at that time. But you need to find that balance. And that balance is going to look different for everybody's situation. My balance at my house up in Illinois, where my family is, they're all in safes. I have one safe that has a quick access. It has one gun in it. Everything else is locked up in other safes. Down here, I have several guns, but I don't secure them in the same fashion, because there's no kids. It's just me, and I want quicker access to them. So when my kids come down here to visit, they all go in the safe. I don't just leave them sitting around or anything, but I have easier access. So you can go with something as impressive as that big safe. I wish that was mine. It's not. And something as simple as the chain locks or the trigger locks. I hate trigger locks. I don't have any with me, because all my training stuff's up in Illinois, but I can show you how I can load, or I can put a trigger lock on a gun and then manipulate it to repeatedly fire the pistol with a trigger lock on it. So they do nothing at all to really secure the firearm. Cable locks are a little bit better, because it does inhibit the use. And then, like I said, a safe is the kind of gold standard of at-rest storage. If you have a big safe, look at dehumidifiers. It's not as big of a problem here in Texas, but San Antonio is a little bit of a problem. Up in Illinois, where we regularly see 90% humidity through the entire summer, I have to have a dehumidifier in my safe, or I end up with pieces of rust and not guns. And then at the bottom here, I talk about what I have. So in my bedroom at home, I have a pair of pants that has a belt and a holster for the gun that's in the quick access safe. I don't have a cell phone in there anymore because I just keep my cell phone by my side of the bed. It has a flashlight and a pair of slip-on shoes right there. If something goes bump in the night, I can put my pants on, slip my shoes on, grab my gun out of the safe, and within a minute or so, I'm completely ready to go. And I can go see what the bump in the night was.
What kind of combination do you have? Is it like a push button, or is it where your belt is?
So where I keep my gun is is one of the like palm ones that you push the different buttons on it, and it has just a little code that you push this finger, this finger, this finger, and it pops right open. So I also have another one that has like a number combination. That's where my wife keeps hers. So any of those, my biggest recommendation on those is buy something that is quality. Save up money and don't buy just the Walmart special one. Go buy one that has a little bit of backing to it, because you don't want it to fail. Because if it's going to fail, it's going to fail at the most inopportune time, whether that's when you're wanting to take it to the range or when you need the gun. One way or another, it's going to cause you a problem. So, and the gun that I keep in there is the one that I carry most of the time anyway. So, and then vehicle storage. So not as big of a problem here, but in other states, you will have to take your gun off before you go into certain places. Remember, this is all kind of geared towards Illinois, where we have to take our gun off a whole lot. But still, if you run into the post office or you run into certain government buildings, or even hospitals and stuff like that, you have to take your gun off. You have to store it. So you need to have some way to store it safely. Just taking it off and pushing it under your seat is not the most advised way to do it. Snag on that spring under there, and all of a sudden you're putting a hole in the back seat. Hopefully there's nobody back there. But it's also the most dangerous time of handling a gun. Cars are not built to draw guns from. It just doesn't work super well. And you're going to point that gun, no matter what you do, at something you don't want to shoot. Whether it's your leg, somebody in the passenger seat's leg, the car next to you, because remember, bullets go through cars. So you just need to be very, very cautious and very, very mindful. And that's very deliberate in your actions. Make sure that your holster's out of the way if you go to reholster. Toggles like that are on the bottom of sweatshirts, so you can cinch them down. I have known of one person directly and read several others of those getting stuck into the trigger as they're putting them in, and then it actuating the trigger or almost actuating the trigger. So things that people don't think about all the time. Nobody thinks about that little toggle on the bottom of their shirt till it's stuck in their trigger.
Just in the last month, there was an accident, a gun accident, where a person had it on their holster, and they put their finger on the holster to move, because the holster was shifting, and they grabbed the holster to shift it. And when they did, their keys were there, and they moved it, and they lost their finger.
Yep.
Their finger was at the bottom of their holster where the gun was, with the barrel. So it's just, doing that simple thing.
Yeah, it doesn't, so every time you touch the firearm, it needs to be a deliberate act of, I am doing this for this reason, and you're thinking about what you're doing. Because if you lose track of that, or you stop thinking about that, that's when you're going to slip your finger, or that's when you're going to get that toggle stuck, whatever it is, that's when it's gonna go badly. So, any questions? Okay. So that is the safety portion of it. We can go into talking about, the best gun for home defense, best car gun. We can, open it up to those type of questions. Everybody's going to have an opinion about it. I'm not saying mine's the right one, but
Well, you're leading it, so you get the vote.
Okay.
No matter what anybody says.
Yeah.
Well, what's the proper way of, you've got it in your hand, you're at the target, can you go through the motions of addressing,
Absolutely.
the target?
Okay.
best
I'm going to
practices?
pull something out of my bag. It looks like a gun, but it is a dummy gun. It is a laser gun. If everybody looks at the chair up here.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Does not have rounds. So if you are we talking at the range or are we talking draw from holster? Okay.
Shooting the gun, proper practices.
Okay. So we will go from draw. So have it in a holster, I bring it up, I immediately turn it 90 right here. Because if somebody's right here, I don't need that much space. I can shoot them from right there. Yes, sorry. So it's up and then like that. So it would be straight up out of the holster and then straight forward. You want to, depending on what you're wearing, cocking it out is not a bad idea. As I'm doing that, my other hand is going to my chest. It comes across my chest and I push it straight out like that. And then whenever I'm at rest, I bring it right back to my chest. That way I have control of the gun. It's not out here where somebody could grab it or anything like that. It's up close to me, but it's very quick to punch it right back out there. And I can just punch it.
Two-handed, not one-handed?
Two-handed. So proper grip. With your strong hand, you grip it. Firm handshake, but you're not trying to squeeze so hard that the mag shoots out the bottom or anything. Thumb straight along the trigger. That's why they put these little divots in most guns. And then your meaty part of your thumb here goes into that little pocket that's formed. This part of your thumb here should fit in that part of the other thumb, and they should just line up. The thumbs stay pointed, and a lot of people ask about the thumbs being pointed. If you curl everything around or tuck them in or do some weird things, it's harder for your body. Your body is designed to point. I'm pointing right at that little statue behind the thing's head, and I know I am. My body just does that. So stop trying to force your body to not do that. Let something point. So you're pointing your thumbs, bring it up, and that's all there is to it. So. Any other questions?
I have a Ruger ACP 380.
Yep.
First one I bought
Mm-hmm.
10 or 12 years ago at the gun show at the Coliseum.
Yep.
It's too small for my hand.
Mm-hmm.
It does not have a safety.
Nope.
Because you have to pull the trigger back 3 feet, it seems. And by
Yes,
then,
you do.
the trigger is all the way up to the crook of my, here.
Yeah.
So, and I got tons of ammo for it.
So,
I would consider selling that one, because I don't know.
and that would be my recommendation.
Yeah.
So that is something that I see all too often, especially with women. You go to a gun store and the guy behind the counter goes, "You don't want that big, Glock 19. You want this little tiny 380." And that is the worst advice to give, especially a new shooter, because they're harder to handle to begin with. But not all women need to shoot a 380. Most women don't need to shoot a 380. My wife doesn't shoot a 380. She shoots a 9mm or a 45. And like you were talking with your hand, so hand fit is a huge thing. I don't shoot Glocks because I don't like the way they fit in my hand. I shoot Springfields because I like the way they shoot in my hand. I hated the Beretta that I was issued. Despised that gun. Because, and it's not that it's a bad gun, it just doesn't fit me. My thumb, where that decocker is on the back of the slide, I have to open my entire grip up to be able to reach it because there's no way to get there from a proper grip. And so it slows down my shooting. So what I would recommend is, take it into a gun store, say, hey, I want to trade this in on another gun, and then tell them, I want a gun that fits my hands. If you want a lower recoil, 9mm is a good spot to start. If you are okay with higher recoil, if you want 45, go with 45. It's all personal preference. I highly recommend, so like the gun range that we're going to today, you can rent guns. So you could try a couple different types. And plenty of us, I'm going and I have, most of mine are 45s. He's got a... Yeah, so it's a... Yeah.
I actually have a Glock 19 also.
Oh, very good. Yeah, then you're good.
And I really like how it,
Yeah.
it's the less one of the other ones.
And that's really the biggest thing. As long as it fits and you can shoot it, then that's the gun you want. Is the 380 better than a sharp pointing stick? Absolutely. But
I was looking for something small enough that I could,
yeah, and
it just was too small for my
yeah,
hand.
and that's like I said, that's the same thing, same problem I have. I have big, huge hands, and some guns just don't fit. Yeah. So, and there are smaller framed guns that are easily to conceal that have better dimensions than the Ruger. The Ruger is a very small, thin gun. There's not a whole lot of heft to that. I'm carrying my Springfield XDS in 45, and it's just a thicker gun all the way around. Still very easy to conceal, but just a thicker gun.
I want to just say, sorry, I want to say that, those, I have an experience that I don't know until after I shoot, until I play with it, right? And it's just kind of like I buy a gun and say, okay, I got a new gun. It's like, it just doesn't feel right. Every time I pick it up, there's just something about it, right? And those are the, and then all of a sudden you get the one, it's like, oh, that feels nice.
Yep.
And so it's a personal preference, not even necessarily the caliber, or it's how does the gun feel in your hand.
Yeah, the caliber becomes almost irrelevant when you have a good fitting gun. Because you can go up in caliber, you can go down in caliber, and it's just going to shoot well because it fits your hand. And on target. Like I said, I don't, Glocks makes a great gun. Plenty of people use them. Plenty of people have no problem with them. I just don't shoot them well, and I don't like the feel of them. And that's just the way it is on mine. SIGs, I like SIGs, but they have the same grip angle. They have a very similar, it's the more American style, the 1911 style of angle and stuff, and I shoot better with that than I do with the Glock. So.
I want to say that Ruger did come out with a newer LCP that eliminated a lot of problems from the original.
Yeah, they have updated, which is good. It took a lot of feedback from the field on that one and made some improvements.
Good one for women is the Smith & Wesson EZ.
Oh yeah.
9mm. Now
Yep.
they made it with 380. Is it the Shield EZ? I think so.
Yeah. Yep. So, and I have one of those back up in Illinois, and it's a good little gun. So, I like it, and it has a little bit more meat on it than the LCP. So there's a little bit more to hold on to, which is helpful in when you have bigger hands.
Is your daughter shooting?
She shot up, and she doesn't have any. She shot. We got several knives. We just got a 380. She bought a 380.
Oh yeah, a little 380 revolver, or yeah, 38
My
revolver.
brother-in-law gave me that. He had it and didn't want it anymore.
Okay, those are good guns too.
It's smaller.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she loves
He gave her carry a 22, she'll burn all your ammo. And it's like, yeah, she's trying to make automatic. Whoa, calm down.
Don't have to spend all the money.
A Kel-Tec just came out with a 22 Magnum, 30 capacity.
Mm-hmm. They really do. Like, they just sit around and like throw arrows at a dartboard with random ideas. They're like, all right, we hit these 3 today. We're gonna make a,
Folding AR.
yeah, a folding AR in 38 special because we can. And they do it. Their Sub 2K is a great car gun. I love that gun. The Sub 2K, it's a folding backpack gun. It's
9mm, right?
so you can get it 9, 40, and 45. Somebody said a 10, but I've never seen a 10.
They followed High Point. They made a 10mm carbine.
Did they? Yeah.
Which is just, they have a spring in the back of the stock. Reduced recoil.
Such a yeah.
But yeah, I think Kel-Tec's talking about it. I don't know, it seems like if you pull the Sub 2K in the middle, like that's going to be a really stressed point.
Yeah. So I've shot 10mm once in my life, and it was with my before we had gotten married, but it was with my first wife's dad, so my father-in-law, and we went to the range. I hadn't been dating his daughter real long, and we go to shoot, and I fire the first round, and back at that time, I'd never done a shooting course. This was when I was, before I even joined the military. And so I'm doing the whole teacup grip. And I fire it. I was like, man, that's a heck of a recoil. And I, go to fire it again, and it won't fire. Round had blown up in the chamber. So when I came back, like it cut the side of my hand, cut my, my index finger. And you can't see it anymore. It's finally faded after about 20 years. But you used to be able to see a piece of the Glock had ejected itself into my palm. And there was a little black speck there for years. And I was like, yep, done doing that.
Was that a hand load or was it?
No, it was. So he sent it back to Glock, and it was a manufactural defect in the chamber. So their 40s have a similar problem. So all they did was take the 9mm frame when they built their 40 and just rebarrel it. You can shoot 9mm out through a 40 chamber Glock all day long. You'll get some really weird shapes in your targets, but you can shoot it. It'll run because it's the exact same gun. You have to be very careful with your mags. But after a while, you'll start getting oval-shaped cases because the chambers are not strong enough, because 40 is 10mm, just slightly less powder and shorter overall cartridge length. But they instead of redesigning a gun from scratch, FBI wanted 40 so bad, they're like, here's a 40 on the 9mm frame. And so I've had several buddies that have had to replace barrels because they, all of a sudden they're going to reload their stuff and, oh, somebody must have stepped on this case because it's oblong. Somebody must have stepped on all the cases. What's going on? And then, they pull the barrel and it's starting to oval out. I was like, yep, time to buy a new barrel. So I don't particularly care. Like, out of all the cartridges out there, I hate 40 because the recoil feels like a slap, and no manufacturer has really done a good job at making a 40 caliber gun. It was something that was shoved down everybody's throat because the FBI wanted a 40. So.
You have a 40 cal USP compact.
Yeah.
The recoil was too snappy.
Mm-hmm. It slaps your hand every time. It's a weird recoil and it's in every gun. It's not just one gun. It's all of them in that caliber. It's just a weird caliber. So.
First time I took Liz to go shoot, I wanted her to evaluate calibers in our guns, so we rented a Glock 9, 40, and 45. shot a whole box of 9, no big deal. 40, she only shot 1. She said, I'm done with this one. I don't like it at all. So I had 49 rounds that I had to shoot because I'm not going to waste it. Yeah, you can ask her about that one.
Yeah. Well, since we have some time, I'll go through the.
I got a 40 caliber. I've had it for like 20 something.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually like it.
Yeah.
It's, the only thing I don't like is the grip, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Because it's shorter.
Yeah.
Shorter.
And your fingers hanging off the bottom.
But I mean, it shoots great. I've never had any issues. I've never had any jams.
That's good.
And the other one I got is like a P89 Ruger.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I don't like about that thing is it's like holding a car in your hand, man. I mean, it's so
Big and blocky.
And I'm like, gee, you know, guns day, you're just like, oh, cool, you know. I mean, that thing is huge.
Yeah.
It shoots, like I said, those two guns, I've never had any issues with.
That's-
No matter how many rounds I jack out of.
Yeah. And like I say, so everybody has, different experiences with it. And not every gun is that way. It's just, personal preference. And that's,
Guns, I know what you're talking
yeah,
about.
that's the thing that I really, it's like ham radio. It's like any of the other ones. I really like guns because there's something for everybody. Everybody has their niche, so we'll talk about principles of pistol marksmanship. We're gonna go through all that stuff. So 2 different types of stances. You have your weaver stance, which is you have weak side foot forward, strong side foot back, and you're kind of just bladed off a little bit. That's a more traditional, more civilian style of shooting. And then you have the isosceles, which is you're squared off to the target, knees are bent a little bit, and you're kind of bent over at it. More of a military style because we have the big vest with the big plates in front, and we want front towards enemy, not our sides where there's no stuff. When I shoot, I typically shoot pistol weaver now, just because I've been doing it. But rifle, I always go into isosceles. It's just.
What are the benefits for each of those?
So the main benefit of isosceles is if you're wearing some sort of body armor. Otherwise, both of them support pretty well. I would say the weaver probably supports a little bit better because your body is kind of lined up more. You're muscling it a little bit more in isosceles because your body's not wanting to do this. Your shoulders are tight across the back. It's just harder for your body to get into. Whereas if you're in weaver, it's just a little bit more of a natural stance. So you're not muscling it as much. Your muscles aren't going to get tired as quick. You're not going to induce like a shake from it. So big thing is we see a lot of people do this. They bring the gun up here where it feels kind of natural to sit. Well, my line of sight is way up here. So then I have to bring my head down. What you want to do is you want to bring the gun up and go bring it up to your sight line. Because these muscles in here will induce vibration in your head, which will make your target. And it's almost imperceptible. You really can't see it, but it's there. Your mind alleviates that motion, so you're not seeing the shake. Your target, you'll see it on the target. So proper grip versus teacup, we already kind of talked about the proper way of doing it. Great on 24, not super useful. And then the gangster grip, one-handed. And you can shoot one-handed, and it is better to have it at a slight angle because that aligns your bones better, but not like this. So.
Well, that sideways grip was actually the FBI in Hollywood when they started making all these shooting boxes and told them or asked them to start shooting sideways because you were not accurate. So the FBI and Hollywood got together for that to make sure that they were not accurate.
Was it all the people
So we talked about the proper grip, but like I said, it's, nice firm handshake grip. Bring your other hand up there, tuck it in, and you're you're not trying to squeeze the rounds out. You're just trying to hold it steady.
Your right hand or both hands?
Mostly the right hand. The left hand is just kind of there for support. And I'm really not squeezing very hard on either one of them. It's a very light, like I said, it's firm, but it's not like I'm not trying to, make the person cry or anything. All right, so I did talk about with this keeping your thumbs straight out. On revolvers, don't do that. there is hot stuff that comes out of here, and you don't want your thumb by it because it will hurt. It'll be a self-correcting problem. You will not do it twice. So, but so like I have big hands. Charlotte has bigger hands. If we're shooting a small frame revolver, our thumb may be very, very close to that cylinder. And if you ever watch one in slow motion, there's quite a bit of exhaust gas that comes out of there. The other thing that I see people do so commonly is put their thumb across the back. Yeah, and you'll do it once and then you'll never do it again. My wife has a horrible habit of doing it, and I can't bring myself to just let her do it. I stop her every time. I know I'm not. Because she's going to do it one time and then, why'd you let me do it? She's going to blame it on you. Yeah. I'll tell you, the hardest person to instruct is your spouse. Oh, it's so difficult. Love her to death, but she will ignore everything I say. It's like, this is like my second job. Oh yeah. If HUD or Jerry or anybody in this room said, hey, you need to not do that. Oh yeah, okay.
We were talking about, Travis has been over my house all the time, and we were talking about her shooting a rifle, and she likes to put it on the tip of her shoulder. And I just don't put it in her shoulder. She bought an AR blower last night. She's playing with it and trying to figure out where it needs to be adjusted. It's adjustable butt stop. And she says, well, Travis says it needs to go right there.
Yep, that's how that works. All right, so eye domination. Is everybody familiar with this?
I am now because I have a problem.
Are you cross-eye dominant?
Yeah.
Yep. So eye dominance is really important to know. It's less important for pistol than it is for rifle. But if you don't know how to do it, the way I like to do it is I form a little triangle with my hands like this. I focus on a point out in front of me, and I just bring my hand back to my eyes. And it'll go to one eye or the other, and whichever eye it goes to is your dominant eye. Like Jerry was just saying, he is cross-eye dominant, so he is right-handed but left-eye dominant. And so that can cause some problems with shooting. Again, pistol isn't that big of a deal because the amount of adjustment that you need to make isn't that big. When you're doing rifle though, and you're leaning over like this, and your dominant eye is up here, it can cause a lot of problems. So, it's good to know which eye is your dominant eye, and then figure out what the best way to shoot is. So my second oldest son is cross-eye dominant, right-handed, left eye, and he has to shoot rifle and bow left-handed. And once we figure that out, he's a heck of a shot, but he had all the mechanics correct. He was just wrong eye. I have a friend of mine who I shoot with in Project Appleseed. She is switch eye dominant, and so it will change throughout the day. So she may shoot right-handed, right eye in the morning, and then she might be left eye in the evening and have to switch. She is a phenomenal shot with both hands. She's impressive. I think she was 9 or 10 when I met her, and she was easily out shooting about 90% of the people on the range, and a heck of an instructor too.
Depending on what time of day it was?
Yeah, depending on what time. It didn't matter. I mean, she would And people that didn't know her, that hadn't, been around on the range with her before, she'd get down to do a demo, and she would be doing it right side the entire morning, and then, in the, afternoon, she'd be over on the left, and everybody's like, wait a minute, what did you, weren't you?
Feel the difference, or is she?
Nope, she would, before every iteration on the line, she would check her eye dominance, and then she would just hold the gun like that. I don't know, she never, I don't think anyway, was ever diagnosed with anything, but there's something going on with her, either her brain or her eyes, that caused that to switch. But it was, first time I, saw it, I was like, weren't you just shooting right? And she's like, yeah, no, my eye dominance switched. I'm like, eye dominance doesn't switch. Like, that's not a thing. It's a thing. Yeah, very rare. I've never met anybody else, but hers was like that. Sight alignment and sight picture. So this is your sight alignment. This is your sight picture. Good sight alignment is even across the top, equal amount of daylight on both sides. The rest of them are incorrect. And then for your sights being aligned on the target is your sights all set up correctly, and then right on the target there. The biggest thing is to remember to keep the front sight in focus. And for a lot of people, especially as we're getting older, as I'm starting to notice, that focusing is getting harder and harder. But yeah, you want to make sure that you have the front sight in focus. The rear sight should be a little blurry. The target should be a little bit blurry, but that front sight should be dead in focus.
You target, hold on, let me get my glasses.
Yeah. So, and that's where practice comes in. So, dry fire practice, and which time do we have? We have plenty of time. I might set up a dry fire setup here in a minute. But practicing to get that muscle repetition in there to know what to do without, you need to be able to clearly identify your target, but if, there's a thing called point shooting, which is just what it is. It's point shooting. No sight alignment or anything, but I hit what I was aiming at. So you do it so much that it just becomes muscle memory, and so you can hit your target. You may not be able to hit a dime-sized point on that target, but you're going to hit minute a man. And that's, in a defensive situation, you're not taking the time to align your sights anyway, so you need to get to that point well before you really need to use this in a defensive situation. Yeah, there's your sight picture showing areas of hit depending on how the sights are misaligned. So breathing control. Another one that people seem to
Hold the breath.
They like to hold their breath. So it's an exaggerated amount, but it does move quite a bit as you take those breaths. So where you want to take your breath is not as you breathe in, but it's at the bottom where you breathe all the way out. So I'll go bang, bang. And that's the kind of the rhythm that you want to go. So we teach that in the FCC program. We call it rifleman's cadence. You take your shot at the bottom of your breath. So breathe in, breathe out, bang. Breathe in, breathe out, bang. Don't try and stop anywhere in the middle there, because your body is naturally at rest at the bottom of your breath. That's when your body is the most relaxed. There's the least amount of muscle being used.
Very good information.
So trigger control, don't slap or jerk the trigger. Your fingers should never come off the trigger. It should be bang, comes back out, clicks for reset, bang. It should always stay in there. If you're coming off of it every time, you're changing how you're interacting with that gun over time. So you're not going to be repeatable on the targets. You're going to be all over the place. I have trouble even mimicking it wrong. Because my finger just wants to stay there. The only time you should be off the trigger is if you're in a ready stance and you're not actively shooting. But if you're shooting it, you should just ride the trigger forward. You'll have it go bang, come out, and then you can go right back to bang. You don't have to let it go all the way forward. So LCPs are a little different. They have 2 resets. So they'll go click and then click, and then you have to go back through them again. But most pistols, they click once and you're ready to go back. And you don't have to go any more forward than that. And it should be almost a surprise. Like you don't want to anticipate it. Your focus should be making that front sight stay in the center of that target. And you shouldn't be thinking about anything else. It should be almost, like I said, it should be a surprise.
Until it surprises.
Yeah. And then, it went off. So some guns are easier to have that surprise than others. The lighter the trigger pull, the easier it is to be surprised. So follow through, just like in golf or baseball or anything, there's a follow through with the trigger pull. So you pull the trigger, and you don't, as soon as it goes bang, you don't let off of it. And then ride the recoil, come back down, and then once you're back in the target zone, then you let it off when you reset. And you continue to do that. So, what we can do now is, you guys want to do some practice shooting with the pistol? Cool. Let's do that.
Who wants to go first? Johnny.
All right, I'll be first.
What are we doing?
Practice.
There is some practice shooting. Just set up.
You cut what you want?
No, I'm good. If I give you my keys, will you get some tape out of my car?
No.
Please. In the back seat, there's a roll of blue painter's tape.
Just behave. Go out there and get that tea.
What are you smoking? It's in Canada. Where is it in the back seat, you said?
Yeah, it's in the back seat on the passenger side. Just a blue roll of
Oh, pardon.
painter's tape.
How many yards?
Whenever,
That's 1, that's 2.
1, 2. And it will tell you when to go. And it'll call the targets.
Is that 7 yards?
That's not 7 yards.
How's it gonna tell through a speaker?
Is the shooter ready? Stand by. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1.
Oh, fun.
I will redo it since I
Yeah, I had
I had the 2 lasers on.
Oh, okay.
You had to guess.
Stand by. 2, 2, 2, 2, 1.
Killing me.
1, 1, 1, 2, 2.
Oh, fun.
It kept going 2.
Yeah.
2.
I'm due for a 1 right now. All right. All right,
Thanks.
come on, who's going?
I'm gonna take off some of the calls. So
You got what, Jerry?
it won't repeat as much now.
All right. Show me how it's done. Oh, no. Can you slow it way?
2.
Do I have to have it holstered?
No, you can have it already.
Is the
Yes.
Stand by. 2, 1,
Oh, where is it?
2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Very nice.
So,
Yeah. It's like, I gotta pull the trigger to get the, it's like, I was trying to find the laser before I pulled the trigger.
Yep.
It's like, where do I gotta pull the trigger? Come on. Come on, Rockstar.
Is the shooter ready?
Yeah, I guess.
Stand by. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
Nice. Very nice.
So I got used to the.
All right. So what's the name of the system? Go on.
so this is called laser. And it is spelled LASR.
Okay.
So they have this program, which they've kind of depreciated at this point. They're still maintaining it, but they're not doing much with it. And then they have a web-based one that you can use like a smartphone and do it. And that I've only played with that a little bit. It's a really nice program. But I bought this one years ago for classes like this.
Stand by. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Nice. Come on, guys.
You go, because you don't want to.
You can do it.
It's free shooting.
It's fun.
Yeah.
If you play video games, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah. So I have this set up in the place, and every once in a while I'll just turn the computer on and put the camera up, and I'll start shooting.
Shooter ready. Stand by. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
All right, come on, guys.
Is the shooter ready? Stand by. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
I need to practice. Yeah, it's pretty cool, right?
What guns do they have with that? Just that Glock?
So they have a Glock. I think they have a couple SIGs now. So that is from Next Level Training. The program is from Laser. If you go on to Next Level Training website, you can buy a license for Laser right there. So you can buy the whole package. They're not cheap. They are the
Is the shooter ready?
yeah. Yeah, you can buy
Does
it.
the gun talk to the program?
No, just through it just sees the laser off the camera.
2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2,
brought that up, about how I hold the gun down here,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and
move
not
your
bringing
head.
that side up.
Yep.
That made a difference.
I have to actually think about it, because I naturally keep it down, and push your head down.
Yeah,
Even on the
that's
rifle.
what you do. Just
Yeah.
come down and cock your head.
Yeah.
Try to.
two, one, two, one, two, one, two,
Nice.
one,
Right, a rock star.
two.
I'll be
So-
on the radio, you protect me.
Something you can't, you know, if I had another display, or another place to point that, on the screen, it shows where you've hit.
Oh, really?
Oh, very cool.
So as each one of you shot, it, you know, at that time, it would have little red dots everywhere on the target. And so it gives you a little bit of feedback, because you're not gonna remember
Yeah.
where it hit, and there's nothing on there, so it gives you the feedback on the screen. And your groups are real nice and tight.
Wow.
So can you change the height of
Yeah.
the targets?
You can adjust this however you want. So people will take this system and they'll set it up like in a long room, like if we set it up this way, and put like a bunch of IDPA targets up and basically make it an entire competition stage. And then you have to run the whole stage.
Of course, yeah.
And they have whole community built around like pre-set up things, scenarios to do, and tells you where to put the targets and stuff. And you don't have to just use these. So like I have the diagnostic targets. These don't really work with this gun because you need to have a recoil to really kind of use the diagnostic targets. But like the dot torture, I have this version, I have this one, and all you do is you just draw shapes around it. So I would draw a circle for that one. You can do square, you can do triangle. I have my little headshot guy. So I can like outline make the target sensor only the size of the heart. So it won't count anything even in the lungs, it will just count that. Or I can stack targets. So like this is, like a 2-point hit and this is a 1-point hit, or however I want to do it. Same thing up in the time. So it has a ton of versatility on how you set it up. And so I have a couple of those up, and I have one of the guide hanging in my room, and I just set the camera up and sit there and dry fire every once in a while. So it's a great training tool. Like I said, it's not entirely a cheap setup, but it's
What are we looking at, 200-300 or?
200 or 300 for the gun.
Oh, okay.
And then this program is like $100. The app is cheaper. You can do a monthly thing on the app, and there's different tiers for it. So this program that I have is the equivalent of their top tier in functionality. The cool thing about the app one, when I get back up and I start doing more training again, I might invest in it. You can get multiple licenses for multiple devices, so you can put like a smartphone in a room and do like shoot house type stuff. So you just put it up in the corner, and then as people come in, it's zoned on each one of those targets. And you can do that, and then you can go to the next room and have another camera, and it'll record and display all of that data for you. It's a neat setup. The web version is got a lot more cool features in it. You can do IP cameras with this, but it's clunky. Like I said, they haven't been doing a whole lot with the program after we moved to the web base, but it's a fun little thing. Like, my kids love that gun. My kids love that gun so much that I just had to replace the trigger because they broke the trigger. They wore the trigger out in it. But my kids will sit there and run the shoot simulator in the basement for hours.
Well, it's good for them.
Yeah, Yeah, I highly encourage them to do it. Can we play with laser gun? Absolutely. And they have long gun versions too. You can buy a full up long gun. If anybody wants to shoot more, they can. I'll just restart it. They have full like mock-up ARs, but then you can put in there that will reset the trigger. So when you fire it, it'll kick the trigger back, and so you can continue to use it.
How did I shoot it? I'm gonna try and put it up with my eyes.
Is the shooter ready? Stand by. 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1.
Much better, yeah.
It does.
It's
Yeah.
weird, I mean, I just never really thought, I always
You're
caught
sure
on
relaxed. You're not.
to this instead of upstream.
Travis, can you tell us about different uses for each type of firearm?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So pistols are kind of our go-to self-defense gun. You know, in the pistol realm, you have two types. You have your revolver, you have your semi-automatic like this. Both have pros and cons. The nice thing about the revolver is it's fairly foolproof. You pull the trigger, it's probably going to go bang. There's not a whole lot of stuff that can go wrong, and if it does, you might as well just throw it at them because it's just not going to ever work. Or the round went bad, but typically it would have to be a catastrophic mechanical failure for those not to work. And if it doesn't work, you just pull the trigger again and it advances. Pistols, some of them you can pull the trigger again and try and fire it. Most of the time you have to do an immediate action, so you smack the mag, rack the slide back, get that round out, let the slide go forward and try it again. A lot more work. So if you don't have good dexterity, if you don't have a lot of time to train those type of drills, a revolver may be a better way to go. Problem is, a lot slower to reload versus this. All my ammo comes in this nice case, I just put it in the bottom, and it has more ammo. Revolver, you have to discharge the shells, and you have to put them in either one by one or with a clip, and it's more problematic. But they're our go-to, personal protection gun. What we're going to carry around, we're not going to carry an AR, we're not going to carry a shotgun, because people look at us weird and call the cops. And that's just not what they don't want. So, it's good. It's good in a house. You can use a pistol in a house, very adequately. Just be mindful of if this is a corner of a wall and that's a hallway, don't enter that area with your gun fully out. Bring it back to low stance, because if I come around that corner, I can still fire from here. I don't have to bring it all the way up because we're talking feet, inches. We don't need to come all the way up. Rifles. So rifles can also be used for home defense, but you have to be very mindful of how you're using those because they're going to go through everything, including your neighbor's house. So, there's that. Typically, there are longer range, firearms. They're gonna reach out a lot further. Good for hunting. It all depends on caliber on that as well. So like me and Hud were talking earlier, I don't particularly care for the 300 Blackout. It's a deer rifle. I think it's a little bit on the weak side, even if you go supersonic. Sorry. If I was going to go something in that AR frame, 223 is just as good.
Only it's not legal in Texas.
Well, there's that problem. Depends on your state. So, if you go up into the bigger calibers, 308, 30-06, 300 Win Mag, those are starting to progress into very large calibers. And then you have to be mindful of how much the shooter can take as well. So 300 Win Mag, it's going to knock somebody on the butt if they're not ready for it. But longer range, more reach out and touch things from a farther distance. Bolt action and pump versus semi-auto. Semi-auto is going to give you a faster rate of fire, obviously, than a bolt where you have to work it all the time. Bolts are typically more accurate overall, just because there's less movement in the parts. You know, if you look at an M4, especially some of the military M4s that we had, there's a lot of slop between the upper and lower. Some of the cheap manufacturers have a lot of slop in there. And you know, that movement, you know, might be a millimeter either way, but that millimeter translates into feet and yards the further out you go. And then shotguns. So shotguns are great home defense weapons, especially if you have something that has, you know, a 16-inch barrel, and, you know, a collapsible stock on it where you can get it, you know, nice and small. Don't use birdshot. Even in a house, don't use birdshot, because it's enough to go and upset people, but it's not going to be a stopping shot. And if we're talking defensive situations, your goal is to stop the threat, not necessarily kill. You just want the threat to stop. Birdshot may not stop the threat the first time. You may have to remind them that they just got shot with birdshot. It can still do a lot of damage, and people do die from birdshot, but it's, I mean, vice president a few years ago shot a guy with birdshot in the lip. So, I mean, it does happen, and it's not the same as, you know, like 30 out, or, you know, double out punch. Yeah, you shoot, you know, a couple things with buckshot into them, and they're pretty much done. Slug, same thing. But you have to be mindful again of penetration and stuff like that. If you're looking for home defense stuff, they do make what are called frangible rounds. So it is, typically talking about rifles and shotguns for frangible rounds, but it's a round that will break apart upon impact with a hard surface. So it'll absolutely do damage to the threat and stop the threat. But if it X's the threat, or if it misses the threat, it hits like a wall with some studs and stuff in it, it'll shatter and break apart and fragment apart. So we use those. The Air Force uses them for like range practice and stuff, so that it doesn't wear down the backstop on the range as quickly. Home defense, it works.
What are they called?
Frangible.
Frangible?
Yeah, frangible rounds. So, like I said, they're made of like yeah, no, they're not cheap, but if you're, if you have a mag of them in your, AR, that's your home defense AR, it might be $30 for that mag, but you're not shooting it all the time, Gun maintenance, that's the other thing that I didn't talk about. So, everybody knows they need to keep their gun clean and, make sure there's no dust bunnies in it and make sure it's oiled and it works. Mag maintenance is also a huge thing. If you leave the rounds in your mag all the time, 365 days a year, you never take them out, that spring is going to remember that you were into it, and it's not going to be nice to you, and so it's going to stay down at the bottom instead of pushing your rounds off the top of the mag. So what I do, and what I recommend is at minimum every 6 months, try to go to the range and shoot those rounds. But if you can't go to the range, at least take the rounds out of those mags, set those mags off to the side, have a second set of mags that you load back up, and then you're giving the other mags time to rest. And you can take, especially if it's a carry gun that you carry all the time, when you do that, I don't have anything that's an alligator right now that you can take out. There's typically a way to take that base plate off, slide that base plate off, pull that spring out of there. Don't oil. Never oil your mags, because then dust bunnies get more attracted to it. But take the mag apart, clean it out, air dust it, wipe it out with a cloth, and then that way you're not having anything that's in there. Yeah. So on the bottom of his, there's this little button, and you can just push that button in, and this whole piece will slide. Looks like this one slides off that way. It's also pinned. But it would come off, and then you could pull that spring all the way out and clean out all of the stuff that gets in there. You know, in a dustier environment like Texas is, especially if you're out away from the city carrying it, sand and grit will get in here. In Iraq, Afghanistan, almost every few days we were pulling mags apart, especially in Iraq where it was really, really dusty where we were. That sand was just building up in there. You know, there was a bin of mags in the shop that were just done. You know, no matter how much we put, or somebody put oil in that. Because then all the sand is in there. And basically you've made sandpaper inside your magazine. It doesn't work. So.
How many magazines do you recommend for any platform?
So it depends on the platform. So a minimum of around 6 is kind of where I'm at. One in the gun, you know, if I determine that I need to carry extra mags, I probably shouldn't go there. But if I want to carry extra mags, I want to have at least 2. Now my XDS, I carry 3 extra, or 1 mag in and then 2 extras. My full size that's got 15 rounds in it already, I only carry 1 because it's a lot of weight. So it kind of depends on the platform and the situation. But 6 is good because you can rotate. So if, I have 3 rotations on the XD in my full size. If I have 6, and I have 2 rotations on my XDS if I am doing those rotations. Always, when you go to the range, make sure you bring all your mags. I did not this time, because I don't think I'll probably be doing that much shooting. But cycle through all your mags. If you have one that has a problem, put a piece of tape on the bottom, and then run through again. And if that one has a problem again, what I do is I take them and I dip them in orange paint on the bottom, the heel, and those are my training mags. Those are the mags I put in if I want to do failure drills and I want to induce failures. Those are the mags that I use because they're going to probably cause me a problem. Typically, unfortunately, Murphy gets in there and those mags will run flawless and my other ones will. That's how it is. But I use those as training mags. I don't carry those anymore. Carry ammo, I recommend cycling carry ammo every 6 months. So when you switch out your mags, best time to do that is go to the range, fire your carry ammo out of those mags, put those mags to the side, and then do practice between the mags. But make sure you know which ones were just coming out of the gun. All mine are numbered on the bottom. And then before you leave, load up new carry ammo into the 3 mags that you weren't using, and just rotate them that way. It gives the mags time to cycle through the thing. You're not carrying, because carry ammo is one of those things that it's expensive. A box of 20 rounds is $25 or more. So if you shoot every 6 months, then it's not as big of a hit. But you're not keeping that ammo for 2, 3, 5, 10 years. There's people that I've talked about this to that have gone, you're swapped out my ammo. It's like, well, you've been carrying it.
Well, it's
like 10 years. Go shoot that at qualification today.
It's scary when people chamber their personal defense rounds, and you watch the bullet actually get seeded further into the casing over time,
Yep.
and then you have this mishmash of.
Well, because they never swap out those mags, so it's always the same mag, and it's always the same round going in and out of the chamber. And yeah, that momentum will seat that round further and further back, and you'll go from a full size 45 round to start to get into 40 territory or 9 mil. It's getting shorter and shorter and shorter every time you throw it in there. So yeah, I highly recommend taking that time to go through the ammo.
So a question on ammo and storage. I recently bought ammo cans,
Yep.
Do you recommend you, put the box of ammo in the ammo can, or do you take them out of the box and just put them in loose?
I just put the whole box in there.
Keeps it all box.
Keeps it more organized.
Man, let me answer your question with another question. If you keep, actually two questions. If you keep your ammo in your boxes in your ammo can, you can keep accountability for the number of rounds you have, correct?
Yes.
If you start dumping them in and just grab a handful, how many are in that can?
I've actually had to count.
Yeah, no, I highly recommend just leaving them in their boxes. If you get, if you go to a gun show and you buy a bag of loose,
Yeah,
that's
low
good.
bulge or whatever, buy the little green boxes that you can put them in, or just save your old boxes and put them back into the old boxes. Just mark, not, Winchester or whatever, so you know that it's reloads or whatever. And then I highly recommend, if it's going to be a long-term storage, throw a couple packets of silica in there to take the moisture out of it. Because the rounds will degrade very quickly.
I have another question, and I'm not sure if it's right or wrong, or maybe you might know. For long-term storage, I like to keep my magazines in the safe, but I keep them at like 75 to 80% capacity for long-term. Maybe a year or two.
I would, so if you can do that, but you just need to do that maintenance on the, so, yeah, you have to take it out and, pull that spring apart, give it a little bit of, exercise the opposite way to make sure that it's not overly compressive. And yet storing them, especially like an AR mag, not storing it completely full is a good idea. It's still, if you put 20 instead of 30 into it, it's not as much compression on that spring. There's a little bit easier time springing back.
What kind of training do you recommend for people that are into preparedness and looking to expand past hitting a paper target?
Okay, so there are so many different training companies out there. I don't know of any here in Texas that I would recommend. I'm not trained with anybody. But find a reputable training person. If you guys want to shoot me some names, if you know of somebody, I can kind of vet them out a little bit and look up what they've done. But look for a basic defensive pistol, a basic defensive rifle class, something that's very easy, very low threshold to entry. You can hit paper targets consistently. Now we're going to teach you, okay, this is how you move, this is how you transition from a pistol or from a rifle to a pistol and back again. This is how you do tactical reloads. This is how you do admin reloads. This is when you do those types of things. There's so much that goes into that. But that would be where to start, and then you can just sky's the limit on those type of things. I mean, you can really get into some really cool classes that you're doing.
What I wanted to get into is like that 3-gun training, 3-gun competition.
Yes, 3-gun competitions are great. So there's two schools of thought. There's people that are like, competitions are not trained, and then there's people that are like, every time you shoot is training. I fall into the every time you shoot is training category. Yes, it is not a perfect scenario. I'm never going to be, in this type of thing where all my targets are out in one space and there's 70 of them or whatever. That's not going to happen. But it's good training. You're practicing that transition, and you're doing it at speed, and you're doing it safely. There are some times that you can run into where you build some trainingisms in there that aren't quite, or competitionisms that aren't quite right. But if you train additional to that, you can overcome that. But yeah, 3-gun, IDPA, what's the other one?
USPSA.
Yeah, USPSA has one. There's a whole bunch of different competitions out there, and they're great, and they're a ton of fun. They are so much fun with it.
Cowboy action shooting.
Cowboy action shooting's a good one if you like revolvers and stuff.
I did one down in the valley, it was called Hole in the Wall, and it was a gun club, but they did a simulation of various different scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went, of course, I'm not an expert at the gun, and there was experts there, right? Like, I mean, even their guns, were just totally different. But the thing that I take away from that is you get an adrenaline, because you're on time and you're on target or accuracy. And it was, I just love those. We simulated that we were in a 7-Eleven, behind the counter, and we had to go through the scenario where we had to actually load, reload, and move, and it was just be in different positions. I really enjoyed that. So.
Yeah, and that's really what it is. So you can do some crazy stuff with your guns.